another week.
Sorry to cut you off. It's time, so I'm just going to admit everyone. And Craig, if I could have you. Oh, I didn't make you a
Yeah,
co-host.
make me a host
Yeah.
and I'll let people in.
Okay. Okay, everyone's now a co-host, and I'm going to admit everyone. And we are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're live.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a great weekend. I'm Milry Williams, the Speaker Engagement Director for 40 Plus of Greater Washington. Welcome to our weekly Monday Speaker Series, sponsored by the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. The Fairfax County Economic Development Authority's Talent Initiative Program provides great resources to connect our 40 plus members to hiring companies, agencies, and nonprofits across Northern Virginia through workinnorthernvirginia.com. 40 Plus of Greater Washington is a 67-year-old nonprofit. Our mission is to empower and connect experienced professionals, managers, and executives for successful career transitions. We do that through a range of programs like this morning's monthly speaker series. For those of you who are new to 40 Plus of Greater Washington, I want to do a special shout out for our upcoming Career Transition Skills Speaker Series. We're offering the next 4-week, 13-session series at a COVID-reduced special price of $300. This is a great value because it offers a very distinctive, integrated set of experiences and trainings that will be extremely helpful for those who are seeking their next job, including a resume redo, a personal elevator speech development, mock interviews, and lots more. So take a look at our website for more details. I'd like to take this moment to introduce Craig Muckle, our Director of Marketing and PR, who is heading our social media campaign, and ask Craig to share some information on that campaign. Craig?
Good morning, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Shira as well. Appreciate having her on today. She's been a longtime supporter of 40 Plus. We look forward to her comments again today and her insights. So very quickly, for those of you who are new to 40 Plus, we have 3 social media platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And Tina Howe does a great job of making sure we have the right imaging and right messaging, and making sure that the messages we place on those social media get out in a timely way. We obviously promote our upcoming speakers, but also we've had a 40 Reasons to Join 40 Plus campaign, which we started about the midpoint of 2020. And that's been pretty successful, just identifying why it's important for you to participate with 40 Plus. And we certainly hope that the speaker series is one of those 40 reasons to do so. The importance of social media is the ability to reach networks that we don't necessarily, reach people we don't necessarily have immediate access to. So that's where you come in. So if any or all of you have at least one of those social media platforms, we hope that you do, certainly LinkedIn, then we would encourage you to engage with our posts, share them, like them, even comment on them if you so choose, because that's how we build up our network of people that we can help. So we will also be having information about the upcoming class that Milry mentioned as well. So be on the lookout for that. And I'll turn it back over to Milry to introduce Shira.
Thanks a lot, Craig. Just as a reminder, next week's presenter will be Eugene Poole, who will discuss the new Obama plan special enrollment period for 2021 in a virtual meeting. So our speaker today is Shira Lozar with Purposeful Hire, who will talk about how to access the hidden job market. Can I get back to, let's just, hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. Okay, sorry about that. So Shira Lozar is with Purposeful Hire, who will talk about how to access the hidden job market. Shira is a seasoned career coach and a recruiter who is passionate about helping people do what they love. Through her dynamic career branding process, she helps job seekers discover their career passions and showcase their professional superpowers through compelling LinkedIn profiles, standout resumes, pinpoint networking, and memorable interviews. She's also co-founded a community service program, boomerworks.org, helping 50+ individuals re-career into self-employment. She was honored to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Florence Belsky Foundation for this groundbreaking work. Shira's passion is best captured in her tagline, "For every hire, there is a higher purpose." Today, toward the end of her presentation, you'll go into breakout rooms for a networking session. When you come back to the main room, Shira will do a bit of spot coaching, and then she'll entertain questions both in the chat and opening up your mic. So, good morning and welcome, Shira.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So if you have been in the job search world for anything longer than a minute, you will hear that networking is the key to success in your job search. Everybody talks about it. And as somebody who sits on both sides of the hiring aisle as a recruiter and as a career coach, I can attest to it. I have seen this divine orchestration happen more times than I can count. And what I want to do is I want to actually kind of take you through a little bit of jog down memory lane to explain to you why this is the case. And then we're going to talk about practical ways that you can overcome it and kind of access this new hidden market. So let's first of all talk about job search in the pre-digital dark ages. This is a 40+, 50+ communities. I am sure you were all old enough to remember the time when you had to print out one of these puppies, right? Got to put that resume on cardstock, right? You had to lick one of these and you had to put it into one of these, okay? This seems like it's, kind of, again, from the dark ages, but that's the way that it used to be. If I look, could everybody put themselves on mute? That would be Gaddafi, would you mind unmuting Theo for us? Terrific, thank you so much.
Shira,
you're on
Shira,
mute.
you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now? Are we good?
I can hear
Perfect.
Okay, terrific. Let's start again here. So the advantage, right, back in the dark ages of when you were doing this kind of job search, from a recruiter's perspective, the advantage was that you had to take some time and some thought and some care into your job search, into when you decided to apply to a job. You had to really think it through. You had to craft everything just so, and recruiters ended up receiving a lot fewer resumes than they do today. Well, what happened today, right? So here we are in the job search digital black hole. You're here and you're sitting in front of your computer and you're applying on Indeed and on Career Builder and on maybe LinkedIn's job board, and you're doing all this work, and I realize it does take some time, but from a recruiter's perspective, right, it was a way for them to scale their recruiting efforts. And what happened is they put all this stuff into what's called an applicant tracking system, fondly known as an ATS. And applicant tracking systems, particularly for organizations that are over 200 employees, that's typically when they use this. This is the place where they aggregate the hundreds and thousands of resumes that they get on a daily basis. This is why it's a black hole. And as a result, this is what happened to that poor recruiter. I mean, it just boggles their mind. It's overwhelming. They don't know how to sort all this information because these ATSs, unfortunately, are not particularly robust. They say that they are, right? But unfortunately, the algorithms are often not accurate enough for that recruiter to find you in the midst of this morass of other resumes. So it's a very, very overwhelming process. And as a result, what's happened is that they started to tap their hidden network, okay? And, they say birds of a feather flock together, right? People do business with people they know, like, and trust, and recruiters are no different. Yes, they will take that resume through the job boards, and yes, they will take that resume through their applicant tracking system. But at the end of the day, what's happening is is that 80% of the jobs are hidden from the market. Why? Because it is just so much time and effort for recruiters to sift through all of these resumes that they're getting from the job boards, that they oftentimes will take those jobs offline, not put them on LinkedIn job board, not put them on Career Builder, not put them on Dice or Indeed or any of those other platforms. And they will literally go into their network. And when they do, they're asking their network one question: who do you know that would be a good fit for this job? And what they're doing is they are trying to go after people who do what you do to find you. And I'm going to give you a whole methodology here of how to prioritize your networking efforts so that you can be more easily found. That's the point of today's conversation, right? Because as the recruiter is coming and finding you, what they're doing is they're looking at their network, they're looking at their professional colleagues, they're definitely searching on LinkedIn all the time. And they're going after folks who do what you do, and they're saying, who do you know that'll be a good fit for this job? So as a result, you need to show up before your resume. And I emphasize this because too many job seekers erroneously think that if they submit a job through a job board or they apply into somebody's applicant tracking system, they're going to get noticed. Unfortunately, that is not the case. It can happen, but it usually only works about 10 to 20% of the time. 80% of the time, people get their jobs through personal networking. So you're both trying to find each other. So what I just come up with is a concept, right, in networking that I call leveraging your, in air quotes, your family network. Now, could there be some biological family members in this? Of course, but what I'm really talking about are your professional peeps, all right? I'm going to take you through a methodology today that will hopefully be helpful to help you to prioritize your networking efforts so that you get closer and closer and closer to networking with the kinds of people that recruiters are trying to tap and to find you. So who should be in your family network? I believe there are two kinds of people. First of all, people who know you, emphasis on know, we're going to use that term a lot in the future. People who know you, like you, and trust you. In fact, that's how business is done. You've probably, anybody who's been in business, I know there are some folks on this call that are in sales. People who know you, like you, and trust you are much more likely to engage with you. And then people who get what you do, or aspirationally what you want to do. So the people who know you, like you, and trust you, we're going to put that into the category of relationships, existing relationships, not strangers, people who you know. Everywhere from the people who you know extremely well, they know you by voice, all the way to the people who you haven't even seen in 25 years. But these are all people who you've met before, they've met you, you have some sort of connection with them. By contrast, the people who get you may or may not be people actually who know you, but the people who get you are people who get your profession and or they get your industry. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start taking you through a very specific methodology of what I call a family member metaphor. And we're going to have slide after slide here, and I'm going to try to be very specific and to explain to you exactly what I mean by all of this. So let's start with the people who know you. Okay, so this concept, this family member concept, I break down as follows. You've got your twins, your siblings, your first cousins, and your second cousins. Now, in the know you category, by the way, there's a family member tree for people who know you, and there's a family member tree for people who get you. It's two different things, but it's the same concept. So for the people who know you, okay, here are your twins. Your twins, again, are the people who know you by voice. Now, yes, this absolutely could be a family member, of course, but it could be your best friend. It could be professional colleagues, but people who really, I mean, they are in your close, intimate circle. These are your champions. These are the people who will help you move your house. They will dance at your wedding. I mean, these are your peeps, okay? And I mention these folks because these are the people who are proactively trying to help you in your job search. Notice the word proactive. They're not just willing, they're proactive. And they will do anything. In fact, these are the people that they're constantly scanning, right, their world, because they've got you in their bullseye. They're like, I gotta help John, I gotta help Seth, I gotta help my, and if they are ever tapped for a referral, they're gonna think of you. Or they will be proactively looking for opportunities to refer you into companies that they know, people that they know, right? All of that, they're being very proactive. Then there are your siblings, and your siblings are the people who know you by first name, right? So they're a close colleague, right? There's somebody that you're in fairly regular touch with. I mean, they may not help you move, but they're still close enough where they are extremely willing to be on your side. And they may not be as proactive, but they're the folks that you can easily tap just like that. And they will jump. Say, absolutely, I'm happy to make a referral for you. And likewise, if a recruiter taps them, you're the person again that's going to probably come to mind. Now, your first cousins. Your first cousins are a past relationship. It could be from any time in your life. In fact, let me just tell you, don't ever think that time is a factor here when it comes to reconnecting with people who you've had a past relationship with. It could be 25 years. I mean, I have literally resurrected relationships after that long, because as long as you had a warm connection with them, as long as they have good, strong feelings about you the last time you saw them, they will be absolutely open to resurrecting that relationship. It's just the way that it works. Time has no factor when it comes to resurrecting a first cousin relationship. But then there's your second cousins. Now, your second cousins are what I call a past acquaintance, not a relationship. It's an acquaintance. You were friendly, maybe you met at a conference, somebody introduced you, you had some sort of connection, but it wasn't a relationship. These are people who you'll have to remind them, okay, of how you met them. So let's make this real, okay? So the twins, you're gonna call and say, hey, it's me, right? They know exactly who you are. Your siblings, hi, it's Shira. Again, they know who you are by first name. The first cousins, hi, John, it's Shira Lotzer, long time no see, what's going on? And you kind of pick up where you left off, and all of a sudden it's old home week. And then your second cousin, it's hey, John, or hello, John, right? More formal, it's Shira Lotzer. We met back at the da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you have to remind them of who you are. But again, all of these people you've met before, they are not strangers. You have some sort of connection to them. Okay, now let's switch to the people who get you. First, we're going to talk about people who get you by profession, and then people who get you by industry. Okay, two different things. So with your twins, this is where the money is, right here. People who do what you do are your best referral sources. Why? Because when a recruiter is trying to source the top candidate for that job, they will specifically go after the person who is already doing that kind of work. Same title, same industry, same everything. And they will say, who do you know? And what they are hoping that person's going to say, of course, the person could say it's them. That's fine. They could be recruiting the right person. But if it's not the right time for that person, hopefully the recruiter is hoping and praying that they're going to say, no, it's not, the job's not right for me, but I know who it is right for. You who are listening here. And the reason is this whole birds of a feather concept. People tend to hang out with people who are like them. Take a professional society or an association, right? And whether it's a medical society, the Public Relations Society of America, Society for Human Resource Management. I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of associations here in this country, certainly, and in the world, where people are getting together, they're congregating, they're convening by profession. Now, sometimes they're convening by industry as well, but they're often convening by profession, which means that oftentimes, right, these are the folks who know you because they're associating with you on a regular basis. Could be through social media channels, it could be just collegially, what have you, but these are absolutely the best people for you to be spending your time networking with, are the people who do what you do. They are not your competitors, they are your collaborators, because if the job's not right for them, it could be right for you. Okay, so I really wanted to emphasize that. Now, number two, your siblings. So your siblings in the get you by profession, people who do something similar to what you do. They don't do exactly what you do, they do something similar. So let me give you a real example in my life, right? So I'm a small business owner, and I have multiple lanes to my highway, okay? One of my lanes is recruiting. Okay, I have another lane in career coaching. I do other things as well. So I'm a recruiter. So for me, right, other recruiters can be great referral sources. Now, in my particular case, it would be, there's a couple ways I can do this. It could either be a recruiter who does something a little different, but they're actually a recruiter. So they'll refer me stuff that they don't do, or and vice versa. But I actually used to have it happen. There was a time earlier in my career where I did a certain level of search. So it was like mid-level managers. And I actually used to network with an individual, it's actually two people in a firm, where they also, back up. So I mostly do association search, okay, so that's my industry. And I actually used to network with other association recruiters who did executive search. I do executive search now, but at the time I didn't. And so I would network with them, and they would pass over to me the searches that they didn't do. They were too low level. Okay, so that they did what I did, but doing something similar. So for me, actually, my husband is somebody who does something similar. He doesn't do exactly what I do, but he's in the organizational development area, executive coaching and team development and all of those kinds of things. So he's, if you will, he's not my sibling, but professionally, he kind of is, because he does something similar enough where he might hear of opportunities that might be right for me and me right for him as well. Okay, that kind of thing. Then there's first cousins. First cousins don't do what you do. They don't do something similar, but they understand what you do. You're kind of in the same ether. And by the way, I'm going to give you some real live examples in a second for that'll help you. But they understand what you do. They kind of get it. They value what you do. But then the second cousins are really only familiar with what you do. You're a little bit in their ether, but the point of it is this: as you go down this list, you get farther and farther and farther away from the people who are likely to hear about searches for you. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this to you is because you've got to hone in and prioritize your networking efforts. And again, the closer you can get to your twins professionally, the more likely it is that those people are going to want to refer you or even be able to refer you because they know you. But the farther away you get to people who just kind of vaguely get what you do, the less likely they're going to be able to make a quality referral. So now let's get into real examples, okay? So here we go. Again, we're going to still get you by profession. So here's an example. So let's say you are a digital marketer. That's a very kind of popular profession these days. And digital marketers, for those who don't know, there's a lot of things they specialize in. One of the things they specialize in is using what's called MarTech, marketing technologies. Right, it's a very specific kind of a thing, and they're strategic, and they're all about leveraging marketing tools to reach consumers. Okay, so if you're a digital marketer, your twin is going to be another digital marketer, someone who does exactly what you do. But a sibling to you might be someone who's sort of what's called marketing communications, or otherwise known as MarCom. A marketing communications professional. They do something similar in the sense that they get it. They get what digital marketing is. In fact, they might do a little bit of it themselves. They Venn diagram with you a little bit, but they do other things too. They're into copywriting, messaging, all these social media channels, all these things. Not that digital marketers don't do social media, but there's digital marketing is a specialty. Marketing communications is a little bit more of kind of a generalist, meaning that if a recruiter was networking with a marketing communications generalist and they were looking for a specialized digital marketer, it is very, very likely that person will think of you because you're breathing the same air. Likely you're connecting with each other. First cousin, okay? A public relations professional. Now, PR people these days oftentimes dabble in some marketing, and they will often, these PR folks will often appreciate the value of a digital marketer, but most PR people are not necessarily experts in it. So they understand what you do. And again, if a recruiter came to them, it's very possible, that they might know you. But again, we're getting a little bit away from the core of the bullseye here. But again, it's certainly possible. And then finally, I would just say a sales professional would be a second cousin to a digital marketer. They might, not even probably, they might know what digital marketing is, but it's a little bit kind of in a different department from them. So it's less likely that they're going to know you, but again, they're blood related a little bit, okay? And then as you go into third and fourth cousins, you can see what I'm talking about. It gets more and more diffuse. So this, again, focus on people who are closer to what you do. Now, let's talk about people who get you by industry, right? So twins. So I make this up, right? So let's say that your industry, your sector, are animal welfare nonprofits. That's who you specialize in. This is your career path. Either it's your current industry or sector, or it's your aspirational one. Either which one, that's your bullseye. You want to work for or have worked for animal welfare nonprofits. So who would be a sibling to you? Well, people, I would say, who work in environmental nonprofits. Why? Because look, they do kind of sort of breathe the same air, conservation, there's some overlap there. So if somebody works in an environmental nonprofit, chances are they probably know some folks in animal welfare, meaning if a recruiter came to them and was doing some networking, they might think of you, right? Because you're kind of in a similar sector. I'd say a first cousin would be anybody in the nonprofit sector. which is pretty broad, of course. But look, people who play in the nonprofit sector oftentimes will know other people who play with different missions, right? And then finally, I'd say a second cousin might be a veterinarian. Well, why? Well, yeah, a veterinarian likes animals, but they're probably not directly connected to the nonprofit sector unless they personally happen to be a member of the World Wildlife Fund or something. So meaning that's a less strategic connection for you than somebody who actually works in your industry. And I'm gonna give you one more example of industry, okay? Because here most of us are in the DC area, and I'm gonna go with biotech, okay? So some of you who may know in Maryland, we've got the 270 corridor, right? All these biotech companies. Probably there's some of you on this call who are in that field. And so here we go. So biotech would be your twin, okay? So I'd say that a medical equipment manufacturing company is probably a sibling, right? They kind of breathe the same air, it's, kind of similar. They probably know people in the biotech space. But then you got your first cousins. I would say a first cousin would be somebody who works in a hospital. Okay, so they indirectly benefit from the work you do in biotech. They're probably not playing in that world, but maybe, just maybe, they know somebody who knows somebody, because kind of, sort of, it's in the same sphere, right? And then a second cousin, I would say, might be somebody who's in health and wellness. So, that's pretty far removed, right? Somebody who does health and wellness, they're working with individuals. They're not working at the corporate level typically, although sometimes they are. But they're much, much farther removed from biotech. Okay, so I wanted to give you a couple of real live examples so you can start to think about how this relates to your profession or your industry. Again, either what you currently do or what you aspire to do. This is all about prioritizing your networking. So in my opinion, what is the best networking intersection? Are people, and this is the same person. Okay, it looks like it's two people, but it's not. It's one person. It's a person who is both a know you twin and a get you twin. In other words, the person who is your buddy, who's going to proactively network for you, but at the same time, they're also somebody who really, really gets you. So again, if you're a digital marketer, that would be the person we're talking about here is somebody who gets you, who does what you do, they're a digital marketer, and they happen to be your best friend. Okay, well, wouldn't that be lovely, right? The person who can champion you and can give you a really quality referral, right? Because they really want to help you, but they're also best capable of helping you. Now, I'm going to share with you what I think is the next best intersection. Under the know you category, a sibling somebody who's a sibling or a first cousin who also is a get you twin. Notice the get you twin thing here. That's the consistency piece, meaning go after people who do what you do, right? But if it's a person who doesn't know you as well, I mean, they know you, right? They're not your best friend, but they know you enough where they are willing to help you. They're also really capable of helping you. Okay, so I wanted to show you just some examples. Now, of course, there are all kinds of other intersections that could work, but you see how I'm driving you toward the get you twin. And then relationally, the closer they are to you, the more likely they're going to want to or be willing to help you. But even if they're not, right? I mean, look, there are plenty of strangers out there that we have all seen, that a lot of us have done networking on LinkedIn, which I'm going to get into in just a second. People who are perfectly happy to pass along a referral and what have you. And so they're not even on your family member food chain at all. And yet, if they're a get you twin, all right, they're more likely to kind of want to keep that collegiality going. So you may want to be thinking about, well, how do I actually connect with these folks? Like, what do I say to these people? So here's a general principle. This is specifically for the get me family members. In other words, the people who do what you do, or the people who are in your same industry. Here's the general rule of thumb. The more they get you, the more specific you can be in your elevator pitch. But the less they get you, the more generic you need to be. So what do I mean by that? Well, when I say specific, I mean, you can talk jargon with these folks. So if I'm networking with somebody in the association community, we can jargonize all day long, talk about member recruitment, retention, engagement, all this stuff that people outside of the association sector be like, wait, what? It would be like Greek to them. But if I were talking to somebody who's outside of that sector, let's say I'm sitting on an airplane or something, and the person has nothing to do with what I do in the world, right? Like, what do you do? You work with what association? What's an association, right? Then I have to obviously be much more generic, kind of really kind of break it down and be much more, kind of overarching about it. So let me give you an example or two examples. So here's some get me sample pitches, right? So let's say you're talking to a twin, but this is a dual twin. The twin gets you in your profession, and your industry. And in this case, it's a digital marketer who also works in animal welfare nonprofits. So here's a jargony specific, right, kind of a little pitch. Now, it would be longer than this, right? But for the sake of time, I'm keeping this short. So I leverage MarTech stacks to boost donor engagement campaigns, and I love a connection into the member engagement department of WWF. Now that's specific. I'm using jargon. I'm saying MarTech. Only a digital marketer would know what MarTech is. And by the way, the new concept is MarTech stacks. That's pretty specific. Donor engagement campaigns. Well, somebody who's in digital marketing and a nonprofit, actually any of them, would understand what donor engagement is. They would know what WWF is, the World Wildlife Fund. I don't have to explain it to them. I can be super jargony, super quippy, okay? And then we can kind of have this kind of clannish conversation. Now, here's another example. Let's say it's a first cousin, and I'm going to make it a first cousin on both levels. It's a first cousin in your profession. So meaning in this case, it's a PR person, but also in the industry. So they work for some sort of generic nonprofit. So I'd have to be a little more generic. So I would say I use marketing technologies to help animal welfare nonprofits with their fundraising efforts. I'd appreciate any connection you may have at the World Wildlife Fund, right? So I didn't get super jargony. I didn't make any assumptions. I was I kind of expanded my language to include them more and to not assume that they know exactly what I'm talking about. So you do have to be mindful of the individual that you're communicating with. I mean, in general, in life, we need to do this, but particularly in networking. It's very, very important that we don't just have a standard elevator pitch. I mean, it's important to have one. When someone says that in 40 plus, they call it TMAY, T-M-A-Y, tell me about yourself, particularly for an interview. But even then, you've got to customize it because you're talking to different kinds of people who can receive or understand what you're saying in different ways. So you want to have different versions of these pitches. So let's kind of transition into LinkedIn just for a little bit. LinkedIn, of course, is one of the most fantastic ways to identify your family members, all right? There's a search bar in the upper left-hand corner of LinkedIn that is just rich. That's all I gotta say. We recruiters use it all the time. Job seekers should be using it. I have a whole other training on this that I can share with you later. If you'd like to go to my website, it's a free video. But what I did was I did a little bit of research before this presentation, and I came up with a few screenshots, okay, just to give you a real live example from the titles and industries that I mentioned. So here's the first one that I did. All right, so I pretended that I was a digital marketer, and I wanted to find my twin in my profession who's also local. So and you can see here in the upper left-hand corner, right, the search bar, I just typed in digital marketing. Now I could have done different kinds of keywords, but I just went with this first. And sure enough, who comes up, right? A digital marketing specialist, digital marketing director, da 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 da. And then I also went into the all filters tab right here in the upper right, and I broke it down by location. And I hit DC, Washington DC. Now it's called DC Baltimore area. And so you can see DC Baltimore, right? So this is an example of somebody who's my twin, who's local to me. Now notice that these people happen to be second level connections. The beauty of a second level connection is, of course, you absolutely have at least one mutual connection, mutual first level connection. Now, of course, that first level connection could be at anywhere on the family tree for you, from your best friend to a second cousin, and maybe somebody could be a stranger, because a lot of us are open networkers these days. But to the extent that that person, that first level mutual connection, is somebody you have some sort of connection with, that's where you can leverage it. And what I always recommend is that if you are trying to, in this case, I'm trying to go after Brianna, I want to strike up a connection to her because I do what she does what I do. I really want her to think of me for opportunities. What I would do is I'd actually go offline, meaning I'd go out of LinkedIn and I would write to whoever do you see here? I know it's very, very small. It says my mutual connections are Will Fuller, Sarah Respass, and 5 other shared connections. So if this was live, I would be clicking there, okay? And I would open that and it would show me the list of whatever, 7 different mutual connections. I would look for the one that I am closest to. Now, by the way, just because I'm closest to them doesn't mean that Brianna's close to them. That's a different story. But for the moment, I would go after the person that I have enough of a connection with. I would write them offline. And if you're wondering where their email address is, to find any first level connections email address, simply open up that person's profile. Again, it has to be a first level for this to work. You open up that person's email, their profile, and then right below their name, it'll say contact info in blue. click on that blue button, and 98% of the time, their email address will show up. Sometimes people are a little bit squirrely and they hide their email address even from their first level connections, but typically you'll be able to see their email address there. In any event, I would write them an email offline and say, hi, John, it's been a while, whatever my connection is with them. So, I'm really trying to expand my network among my professional colleagues, right? As I'm doing my job search. I noticed that on LinkedIn, excuse me, allergies. I noticed on LinkedIn that you are connected to Brianna Evans. Would you consider brokering an introduction to Brianna so that we can explore mutual synergies, mutual professional synergies? Would you consider brokering an introduction to Brianna so we can explore mutual professional synergies? And hopefully John will say yes. And of course, if you have other mutual first level connections, tap them as well, because you never know who Brianna is going to respond to better. And then see if she'd be willing to, to have a Zoom chat with you. Again, if you do what she does, you actually probably will have synergies to explore. And what you would do is you would get on that phone call and you would start to ask her. Don't start with yourself. Start with her. Be what's called a go-giver, not a go-taker, a go-giver. Ask about Brianna. Brianna, so tell me more about what you do in your digital marketing world, and what are some of the challenges keeping you up at night? How's COVID been for you? Right? Kind of get into her life, her pain points, what's keeping her up at night. See if you can be a solution to some of her problems, right? Can you offer any resources? Can you connect her with other people who might be able to help her? She may not be looking for a job, but maybe she's looking for a resource, whatever, a vendor, I don't know, somebody who can help her do what she does. So be in a go-giver mindset, be offering of yourself before you ask for yourself. Right. And then, of course, the conversation will naturally turn. She'll say, okay, so Shira, so tell me about you. What do you do? And then you can start to say, well, these are my superpowers and digital marketing. And like you, I do blah, blah, blah. And, I'm actually in job transition, really open to opportunities. So, as positions come your way, feel free to think of me. Okay. And she'll say, great. That's typically how this works. All right. So I wanted to spend just a little bit of time on this one, because this, again, is really where you want to be focusing on the people who do what you do. So I did another one, and I did the Get Me by the twin in the sector. So I'm pretending that I'm in the animal welfare nonprofit area. And that's all I did, is I put that in the search bar, again, went local. And then here we go, right away, people in that particular space. Now, the reason why this works so well is because LinkedIn's algorithm, as it relates to keywords that you put in the search bar, what they do is the first thing that it goes to, is it looks at the person's headline. So people who are focused on a particular profession or particular industry oftentimes will put that in their headline, as you can see here. Nonprofit copywriting for animal and environmental welfare. Lori is fixated on this, okay? I don't know whether she's looking for a job or not, but this is not her title. This is her aspiration. This is what she does or what she wants to do. And man, oh man, this is her sector, okay? So likely she's going to be somebody that you want to connect with because she's playing in that world. She's got a lot of connections there, right? So I did one as a combo, just to show you how this works. I put in digital marketing and I put in animal welfare, and then I went local, right? I did 3. And by the way, how do you do so you don't, to go local, you don't just have to click the all filters. You will actually see, let me back up a second. You see there's a locations button. This is a shortcut here. If you click on locations, you can drop down and then you'll see, and if you don't see DC, Baltimore, you can type it in Washington. Anyway, so here you go, digital advocacy manager at the Animal Welfare Institute and the director of online marketing for the International Fund for Animal Welfare. This works, people. It absolutely works. And you can play around with this in all kinds of really interesting ways. So I did one more search. So instead of going after twins, I went after my first cousins, right? So I put in digital marketing, animal welfare, and there were other people who came up as well. So here were people who were in digital marketing, so if this person's Keith is digital marketing, Beth is, remember, she's more of a sibling, right? Because she's a VP of comms. But notice where they work. Not surprisingly, because I work with associations a lot. The Home Care Association of America, the National Turkey Federation. My husband this morning, I was reviewing this, and he says, how funny that her last name is Breeding and she works for the National Turkey Federation. I thought that was great. Anyway, the National Association of Independent Schools, meaning they work for nonprofits now. trade associations, frankly, are not. I mean, they're nonprofits, but they're not in the charitable sector. But the point is that this is what I would consider to be a first cousin, right? So these are people I might consider networking with. And remember, I might have to be a little bit more generic in how I phrase my intro to them in terms of what I do, because I cannot assume that they know my jargon. I have to kind of try to speak in a language, that they can hear. All right. So that's kind of the overview of it. So now it's your turn. All right. So what I'm going to do is this. We're going to go into breakouts in just a second. But before you think about your breakout exercise, I want you to pretend that you are just reviewing this offline after this presentation. And yes, you are absolutely welcome to the PowerPoint deck. I'm going to be giving this to 40 Plus for you, or you can write me directly. It's fine. So think of this more as your homework, all right? So what you would do is you would put down your family members on the left-hand side, and you have 3 columns. You know me people, get me people, profession, and get me people industry. So before you do the know me column, I recommend that you do the get me profession, get me industry in the following way. You would actually start to write down titles, just like I did it in this presentation, titles of people in the profession, and then types of industries. In other words, before you get specific with names, you need to give yourself an outline. So again, you're a digital marketer. Okay, who's my first cousin, my sibling? All right, it's a Marcom person and a PR, like all of it. You put your list down of all the different permutations of people who either do what you do or want to do what you do. Again, this can absolutely work for people who are doing career changes, which I know a lot of you are. And the reason is that if you are committed, I mean, really committed to making the shift, is it easy? Absolutely not. But is it possible? Absolutely yes. Why? Because if you're super committed to it, what you're doing is you're trying to go after people who do what you do so they can give you insight. So you can share thought leadership ideas, so they can help you with your networking. Again, these are people who get it, get what you want to do. You're going to, the more you get into this aspiring profession or aspiring industry, hopefully you are learning about the challenges that are keeping this profession or industry up at night. You're reading articles, you're leveraging thought leadership on LinkedIn. Maybe you're blogging about the new profession or the new industry. You're diving into the deep end, and you're proving to your hopeful twins that you get it, but not just that they get you, but that you get them, that you get what's keeping them up at night. You are going to be able to make an immediate impact into the life of this employer, because employers, and anybody who's heard me speak about job search for any length of time will always know that I'm constantly saying that employers, when they are making a hire, they are trying to minimize their risk. They just are. You're trying to get a great job. You're trying to do work that you love and all of this. But for them, it's a business decision, right? And that's why they go after the people who do what you do, because they're trying to minimize their risk. They want people who've been there, done that, have the t-shirt, side of coleslaw, bag of potato chips. They want the person who can slide in. Now, if you have not done that kind of work before, it's going to be on you to prove to that employer and also to your network that you have the transferable skills. And I don't mean your soft skills necessarily. Soft skills meaning how you do what you do. I don't just mean you're a team player and you're creative and all of that. Not that. Your hard skills, your functional skills, the things you do. So if you have had skill sets in the past that are directly related to this new work, so that you'd want to highlight that on your resume and your LinkedIn. The example that I like to give is years ago, and as I mentioned, I'm a career coach. I write resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and all of that. I'm a brander type. And so years ago, I was working with an attorney who decided that he wanted to become a recovering attorney. He only got into that work because his parents told him to, but the reality is he just didn't like that kind of work. And so he didn't know what he wanted to be when he grew up. And so we coached through it, and it turns out he wanted to be a writer. How do you transform an attorney into a writer? Well, I went through his background and I found out all of these different writing skills, right? Because lawyers write a lot. And I just, relabeled everything and really called forth his writing skills on his resume. And then I crafted a LinkedIn profile that was all about his writing style, why he enjoys writing, all of these different things. And he ended up landing a job as a journalist for a legal trade publication. So he was still in the industry. That was okay for him, but he got to change his profession. He got to change what he did. And that was kind of how we did it. But in terms of networking, because that's what we're talking about here today, again, going after the people who get you, are the people who are going to be able to inform you about that profession or industry, and they're going to hopefully bring you into the fold. So here's what we're going to do for our breakout session. Okay, so we're going to go into breakout groups now, and this is very specific. You're not going to do the know me pile. The know me's, because you already know those names that you can do offline. But right now, just to get you into this flow of the family member concept in your breakout room, and it's going to be you and 2 other people. All right, you're going to list out the types of professions or industries. You can do one or the other or both, time permitting. And what I'd like to do is have you guys in that room for 15 minutes. Okay, so Milry, we're going to do a 15-minute breakout with groups of 3. And in there, you want to go around the room and just kind of very organically, say, okay, here's what I do, or here's what I want to do. Just profession. All right, so let's you brainstorm with your peers. If I'm in this title, I'm an HR person, I'm an accountant, I'm a, what have you. This is my title or aspirational title. Who do we think is going to be my sibling, my first cousin and my second cousin, and the same thing with industry. And then for homework, then you'd go after specific names. And how do you get specific names? Well, not only from your memory, but of course go into LinkedIn. And by the way, in LinkedIn, you don't have to just use the search bar. Definitely use that. But you also want to be thinking about who are your first level connections. So if you hit your My Network tab on the top of LinkedIn, that's going to bring up all of your connections, and you can do a search within there as well. So remind yourself of the people who you've already been first level connected with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this as a slide. I'm going to fill this out real quickly, and then I'd like you to take a picture of it to bring into your breakout session, just to remind you of everything that we talked about. All right. So again, we're going after people who get you by profession or industry. So again, a twin is someone who does your job and or they're in your industry. The sibling is a person who does something or works somewhere similar. The first cousin understands what you do or where you do it, what you do or where you do it. And then the second cousin is familiar with what you do or where you do it. So go ahead. I'm going to keep this up here for just another few seconds. Please take a picture of this, bring it into your breakout room just as a prompter, right, for your discussion. So that when you're talking to your colleagues, right, they can help you brainstorm. That's the whole point of this. I don't want you just thinking of this, on your own. I want you to kind of literally brainstorm, because you never know who's going to be a colleague in your room. Now, it'll be interesting to see who you end up with, because it might be that you have in that room a twin, a sibling, a first cousin, and a second cousin. And frankly, it is very likely that the people in this room actually fall in some sort of family member. Now, it could be a third cousin for sure, no problem. But you'd be surprised at how many people have even an inkling as to what you do and might be able to provide you some good advice. Okay, so hopefully you've taken a picture by now. And so we're going to go ahead and go into breakout rooms. So Milry, if you can, I'm going to stop sharing here. If you can go ahead and set up those breakouts for 15 minutes each, we'll come back. And once we come back, then I'm going to do some spot coaching. So if you want to be one of the few people that I do some coaching with, be prepared for that. And I'm going to say, okay, so who's your twin? Who's your first cousin? All of those things. And then let me see if I can help you a little bit to refine how you're doing your networking. Okay, so Milry.
So Gaddafi, I was in a room by myself.
Okay, I'm working on it.
No problem.
Hello, Shira.
Yes.
Hi, I was supposed to be in breakout room 12, but I got kicked out, so I'm trying to.
Oh, I'm not in charge of
Okay,
the
I'll
breakout
just go back.
session.
I don't know,
Um,
like,
oh goodness.
hello,
It looks like
hello,
our
team.
hosts
How
have
are you?
disappeared.
Can they all hear me?
Yes. Yeah, it looks like our 40+ hosts are not here. They must be in their own breakouts. I'm so sorry. I'm not able to put you back in a breakout. Oh, maybe I am. No, sorry, I'm not.
I hit the wrong button and excised myself from my group. But I don't think he can send me back to that group because it's all random, right?
Yeah, I did the same thing too. I hit the wrong button. I was actually talking. I was gonna hit cancel and I hit leave. I'm like, oh no, what happened here?
That's same thing.
Milry, can you lift your mic up?
Yes,
How long are the breakout rooms for? Are we in the ending portion now?
15 minutes. Yeah, people should be coming back. We got a timer on out. Yes, I think people are popping back
Back
in.
right now, perfect.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Hope that was a good sort of networking prioritization conversation for you. So we have a lot of people here. We certainly can't get through everyone. I just wanted to see if there were a few of you, couple of you, maybe 3 people who may want to be brave enough to raise their hand and share with me, share with us who your family members are that you believe, both in terms of your profession as well as in your industry. And then let's see if we can do a little bit of peer coaching with you. And look, we're not trying to get this to an exact science, so we don't have to parse that. Oh, are they really a sibling or are they really a first cousin? We just want to get a general gist of things just to help you continue to refine and hone toward your twins, right? People who are going to be much more likely to be a great referral source for you and access the hidden job market. So who would like to raise their hand? In fact, if you could literally hit the raise hand button on your Zoom, and then we will call on you, and happy to do a little bit of coaching. Who'd like to raise their hand?
So Betsy Anderson was the first to raise her hand.
Okay, great. I know Betsy. Hello, Betsy. All right, Betsy, you want to come up, voice?
Okay, there you go. Okay. So hi, Shira, and good morning, everyone. So mine would be to be an executive director of an association or a society, but let's focus on they're both nonprofits, right?
Mhm.
And I come from a nonprofit background, and I was general counsel of a national nonprofit. So in terms of who would be my twins, they do my job or in my industry. And I should say this is a career change. This is a promotion. So I guess my twins would be to network with people who are also executive.
We've worked together, and I know your background.
Yeah.
In that, when you're looking for a twin, the
Yeah.
ideal type of twin
Yeah.
is a twin who is both in your profession, meaning has your title, and is a twin in your industry. I got to emphasize that. When it's one and not the other, it's okay, but it's a lot more powerful when they do what you do, or in this case, what you want to do,
Yeah.
and they get your industry. Why? Because when recruiters are doing their searches, they're not only looking for the person who does what you do, they're
Yeah.
looking for the people who do it in the same sector. That just minimizes their risk that much more. I should say 90% of the time.
Yeah.
A little bit of the time. Sometimes you'll find an organization that's very open-minded in terms of sector, in terms of industry background. So in your particular case, right? So you've got in fact, you may want to elaborate for the folks here in terms of your industry specialization, because
Sure.
in your case, it's not just that you are an association executive, and it's not, forget the fact that you were general counsel, but in terms of the food, drug, all
Right,
of that.
that's what I was
So,
thinking.
yeah, if you can explain to the folks that.
So it'd be I'm thinking an FDA regulated industry,
Right,
right? So that
Right.
is more my,
exactly.
right. So,
Exactly.
and
That's
then my twins are, I'm like, hey, I want to be like you.
Mhm. That's exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yeah. No, precisely. But think of it this way. In fact, since I as you know, Betsy, I do executive director searches. In fact, I'm finishing one up right now. This happens a lot when an executive director, or any person for that matter, leaves their job, presuming they've left in good terms. They're usually very happy to refer candidates to the hiring manager, or in this case, to the board of directors. Say,
Yeah.
hey, I know I'm not going to be involved in my replacement search,
Right.
but you may want to consider Betsy. Okay.
Okay.
So if it's an organization, in your case, let's say that's FDA regulated,
Right.
look, you already know because I know you swim within a lot of the associations, that you've played with them, right? And
Yeah.
you've had coalitions and all these different things. But even if you haven't, if you can do some research and really come up with a strong list of
Yeah.
the associations who get what you do, meaning they get not just the what you do, but your subject matter expertise.
Right, right. Okay.
Any of those groups, and again, put them into twins and siblings and first cousins and
Okay.
second cousins,
That's
right?
great.
Break it down.
Yeah.
Focus in, target your networking. So if it's a a group that, for example, I know where you used to work, where it's a group, let's say that's literally a twin, like maybe you used to do coalition work with them,
Yeah,
that
right.
kind of thing. You get them, they get you, you can jargon all day
Right.
long, right? Everybody knows
Right.
everybody, okay?
Right.
If that kind of organization's executive director, or even C-suite, for example,
Yeah.
knew that you were on the market, as they hear of opportunities, which they do, it's a small world,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, did you know that Betsy was on the market? She's one of us.
Okay.
You want
I think
that
I got
kind
it.
of-
I think it's really not so hard. It's just this is really helpful, Shira.
No, you're welcome, right? It just helps to organize
Yeah,
and prioritize who you should be going after.
And I also, one other thing I just want to share, what I got with is really the importance of joining a group for networking that is doing what you do. So where do executive directors hang out? Where do they
Yes.
get their advice?
Yeah, well, and they do, and interestingly, and I think, and I'm going to apply this to other kinds of
Yeah.
folks on this call. What's interesting about this has happened for years now, but especially during the pandemic, right? There are all kinds of offline, off the grid, off the radar little networking groups that have
Yeah.
sprung up. Because
Yeah,
it's
I
just
know there's some with women, which I'm focusing on too.
there's a lot.
Anyway,
There's a lot of
yeah.
these little groups that have gone. What you need to do is you need to start listen, ready? This is worth
I'm listening.
worth its weight in gold, okay? You need to start asking your twins where they network.
Perfect.
I mean, let that hang in the air, people. Ask your twins where they network. They will be happy to tell you. Okay. Now I know Craig Muckle, who's one of the volunteers here in 40 Plus, is in the public relations world, right? And Craig, I'm guessing you've been involved in the DC chapter PRSA, or at least know of it, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Now, had you not known of it, if you were to ask other PR people, where do you network? Somebody along the line would say, go to NCC, which is the name of that chapter, right?
Yes.
Or other groups, because again, they're offline. It doesn't have to be a professional society. It doesn't have to be a membership organization. It is likely that PR people are like squirreling away and having these little Zoom coffees with each other all the time, right? And I know Betsy, just as one who plays in your world very much, I have a couple of groups that I've run. I know other people who have offline groups that are
right.
not on the radar. Nobody
Right.
even knows they exist unless you ask your network. Then they'll say, hey, psst, come on, let me
Okay.
invite you.
Thank you. This
Let me invite
is
you.
very valuable. Tthank you so much, Shira.
You're very welcome.
Good
Okay,
to see you.
Good to see you too. All right, who else would like to raise their hand? Joseph. Okay, do you want to raise your mic?
Hi, Shira. So real quick background. So my last position was executive director for the corporate leadership practice at the conference board.
Oh, got another association peep. Okay.
So, yeah, it's an association of sorts.
Yeah.
Just prior to that, I had been a executive director for a smaller professional association in the international development space.
Okay.
So based on that and wanting to come back into the development space in general, where I'd worked prior to that, I spent about a year networking in the development area. I had a very rich network there. I had probably about 100 meetings, concluded that I wasn't going to find a job there, went back to my most recent experience, leveraging from strength and going, so specifically kind of relaunched looking for work as programs management or operations, probably on the executive level with a business, trade, or professional association. Since that's probably more aligned with what I've been doing most recently. And so I guess that's my twin is an executive in program management or operations with a business, trade, or professional association.
Yeah. And in fact, since you're doing a bit of a pivot, right? It's going to be very important for you to network with those people for informational interviews. You need to know what the current business challenges are that keeps those folks up at night. You want to be able to, number one, parlay your experience in a way that's going to resonate with them. You want to be able to have an elevator pitch that resonates. You want to absolutely continue to expand your network. The more you can understand the specific pain points of your twins, right? The profession and the industry, the more credible you're going to sound, the more you'll be able to come up with the right accomplishment stories, the more it's going to be like, yep, hand in glove. That's what employers are looking for, a hand in glove feeling. And your network is as well. Look, this is just how we're wired as human beings, right? We just like to commune with people. We like to convene. We like to kind of hang out with people who kind of walk and talk like us, who do what we do, right? Professionally speaking, that is the same thing. And so as you're networking with the folks who aspirationally are in the role that you're looking for, get to know them, get to know their pain points. Maybe you want to write a white paper. Maybe you want to interview them. I have a quick story for you guys. This is fascinating. I had a client once, a coaching client, and he was a math, get this, he was a math professor at a Ivy League school, right? He comes to me, he moved to town. He's like, you know, he was literally looking to change. He did not even know what he wanted to do. And so he decided that the thing that he was really into was something I'd never heard of, which is called kleptocracy. If anybody knows about this, it's basically when you have a corrupt government leader, let's say from a third world country, and they're basically misappropriating the funds, that the donations that are given to their country. So I'm like, how in the world do you change? So I asked him to do some interviewing, okay, to go into his twin industries and talk to the DOJ and talk to banks and talk to all the people who are trying to mitigate kleptocracy, interview them, find out the pain points that's keeping them up at night, and then maybe write a white paper, something like that, like legit. So he did. And after all of these interviews, he said, oh my gosh, he says something occurred to him. He realized that it's not for him to actually go and kind of do what these people do. He realized there was a gap in the market. The gap in the market was technology. There was apparently no one centralized system that was helping all of these justice and banking financial institutions connect with each other to solve this problem. So he decides to go out and go a totally different way and help and go work with tech people to create the software that was going to be a shoe-in for these. I mean, it was like mind-blowing. But Joseph, my point is that you never know what's going to come out of those meetings. If you literally interview them for the point, almost like a journalist, right? And say, I'm looking to write a blog post, I'm looking to write a white paper. I want to understand specifically what keeps you guys up at night. Number one, it's going to be very impressive that you're doing that, okay? Number two, guess what? It actually, by saying that you're doing it this way, like as a journalist, you now automatically have access to thought leaders that never would have darkened your door before. Because if you're saying, I'm interviewing, who doesn't want to be interviewed? Do it legitimately, right? You could read articles, you could read journal papers, you can say, oh, who's the author of this and who's the author of that? Reach out and say, hi, so-and-so, I was very impressed with your paper on blah, blah, your article on this, your video on that. Would love to go ahead and do a little interview with you because I'm writing a something. Great, take 15, 30 minutes of their time. You get to know them, they get to know you. And all of a sudden you're in their network. And then at the very end of it, you can say, hey, Barbara, whoever you're interviewing, I'm actually expanding my job search. Would there be other people that you can think of who also might be interested in being interviewed? And so I can expand my network. And now all of a sudden you just expanded and expanded and expanded, right? So lots of ways to do this, but go focus and go target, right? After the kinds of people who do what you do and where you do. Was that helpful?
Sure. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, quick follow-up, and then I want to make sure we get to the chat as well.
Oh, sure. Just on the siblings. So I've kind of mentioned my twin is executives in program management and operations, business and trade and membership associations.
Yep.
I'm kind of struggling with the siblings. Is it for-profit and sort of executive learning development organizations, or is it some of the lower second level down for nonprofits?
It could be. Think of it, and since I'm not intimately familiar with your particular, your profession and your industry, I mean a little bit, but not probably enough to coach you as well as I'd like to right now. Mm-hmm. Think of it this way. If you were sitting in the seat of your twin, just kind of literally put that hat on. Say to yourself, who is right next to me? Who's right next to me? Who's the person who's breathing the same air? Related department, related functional area, and from the industry perspective, they have the similar interests. Okay, their problem set is similar to what I do. So I apologize, I can't be super niche in terms of your particular, because that's just not my world. But I want you to think of that, because what it goes like this: if the recruiter is coming after your twin, right? Well, they might go after your sibling because they're thinking that your sibling and your twins are very, very, they're interrelated. So who's got the problem set? Who's breathing the same air? Literally, because think of it, a twin and a sibling live in the same house physically. Who lives in your house? A first cousin you don't see very often. You see at the reunion or whatever, right? Okay, but the person who lives in your house, lives in your building, lives in your office, lives like the department next door. Think of it that way, if that's helpful. And then maybe you can do kind of be a little creative. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Now, we only have 10 minutes left, and I realize there's a whole bunch of hand raises. If it's okay, I'd like to pivot quickly to the chat, Milry, and then if we have time, we'll come back to the hand raises. Okay?
Yeah. So a little bit earlier, Benita asked a question about the strategy around sending invitations to connect to second level contact before or after you've had that offline conversation.
Fantastic question. And I'm going to give you a good old fashioned consultant answer. It depends. Okay. It depends. It depends on whether you're going for quality or speed, right? So if you're going for a quality connection, then I would wait until after you've made the connection offline. You've tapped your first level, they made the intro, you've had a quick email, exchange, hey, let's schedule. Then, go ahead and send the connection invitation because they know who you are. If you're going for speed, well, obviously you would do the latter, right? You would go ahead and just hit connect. But when I say speed, I mean that you are, you're kind of going after like, not just speed, but volume. Maybe you're just trying to get a whole bunch of, of twins in your network, and you don't have you have 50 of them, and you don't have the time to do 50, Zoom coffees in the next, 2 weeks. You may consider actually just doing a quick connection invitation, but this is very important. If you're going to do that, you need to, I'm going to be super slow and exact in how I say this. Ready? Number one, use your PC. Do not use your phone. Why? Because if you hit the connect button on your phone, it will send that person a generic invitation. If you use your PC, you open up the person's profile, literally like tap on their name, open up a normal profile. Then if you hit the connect button from that page, it will give you the personalized invitation note. Okay. Now, technically you can do that on your phone, but it takes an extra step. If you open the person's name, there are 3 little dots and you can drop down and it'll say personalized invite. But the safest thing to do is go to your PC. And if you do that, then you've got 300 characters, not 300 words, 300 characters to write them a nice little note, hi, so-and-so, really came across your profile. You could even name drop if you like. Let's say you have a first level connection. You're connected through Milry Williams, okay, here. So you would say, hi, so-and-so, and this is important in the phraseology. You and I are connected through Milry. Now, notice I did not say Milry referred me, because he didn't. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. You and I are connected, mutually connected through Milry. Looks like we have some we have some potential mutual synergies because of what we do in the world and our interest level. Would love to connect with you and explore potentially having a Zoom coffee. You can do that, and that's fine. But do understand, number one, a lot of people don't check their connection invitation requests on LinkedIn. You probably are guilty. I'm guilty of that all the time. In fact, I think I have 11 waiting for me right now. Not everybody's that active on LinkedIn, so you could send it, but the person may not get back to you for a very long time. And number two, again, they don't know you yet. So it's a little bit, well, who is this person? But if you write a nice note, there's at least a stronger chance that they're going to be able to accept it. But if you're really going for quality, go after the private connection first.
Okay.
Milry?
I'm not sure if I'm asking this question the right way, but Christine Smith-Thorpe asked about crafting a profile for your business and for your job search.
Much longer response, unfortunately, than I can answer right now. In fact, that's a whole presentation. Mm-hmm. What I would suggest is this. First of all, if the two are very much aligned, you really don't even necessarily need a different profile, only because your profile, again, whole other conversation, because and I write profiles, right? So this is kind of my philosophy about it. Your LinkedIn profile, meaning your about section, specifically your about section, should speak to the urgent challenges you solve in the world. Whether you solve them in terms of your profession, right? These are the professional challenges I solve in my career, and or the industry challenges or the sectoral challenges that you solve. If you are, whether you are a job seeker or whether you are a small business owner, you're likely solving the same problems if the two are aligned. And by the way, not for nothing, if you are doing a full-time job search, there is nothing wrong with being open to self-employment as some side work. Because think of it this way, an employer needs to solve their business challenges one way or another. They could hire you as a W-2, they could hire you as a 1099. In the same conversation, you can actually address both. So if you're networking with somebody, a twin, let's say, and they're getting to know you and what your skill sets are and all of that. And this, again, same thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just an introductory note. You know, it's the tell me about yourself answer, right, on paper, so to speak. And you're networking with that person. And they're like, oh, what do you do? Da, da, da. These are the urgent challenges that I solve. Here's my superpowers. Da, da, da. Could you benefit from the work that I do? Do you know someone else who could benefit from the work that I do? And then it opens up into an organic conversation about the business challenges you solve. But then the way you are offering yourself to solve those challenges could be one or the other or both, right? So it could be if they happen to know of a job that's opening, fine, a regular W-2 job. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people are outsourcing these days. It's a lot cheaper for an employer to outsource a quick little project than it is to have the bench strength to hire somebody full-time, 40 hours a week, pay 30% on benefits. I mean, having somebody on the bench, that's a pretty big commitment for most organizations. But if you can be flexible and say, look, I am very open to consulting work, to project work, part-time, interim kind of situations, it gives the employer a lot more flexibility to consider you for flexible work rather than only thinking of you for the full time. And likewise on your profile needs to be a beautifully crafted narrative that speaks to both. Now, if it happens to be that your business is different than your career, right, that's a little different. So in which case I would actually split it up into two areas. I would have the top piece, whichever one you want to highlight. Let's say it's your career, your W-2. That would be the urgent problems you solve there. And then I would literally draw a line and say my side passion project or my side business is da 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 da. Okay, that's how I would handle that.
Okay. And this question, I'm just going to paraphrase just a little bit, but it's a person asking if the strategies that you are talking about work for senior level folks, will they also work for mid and lower level folks?
100%. 100%. Absolutely. This works for absolutely every level because look, I've helped recent grads do their job search. And do you know who a recent grad typically networks with to get their job? Interns, people who are at the lower level, right? They network with each other, right? So that person is looking for an assistant or a coordinator job can use LinkedIn and go straight in to that person and say, hey, John, what's going on in your department? Any openings? Da, 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 what do you go? And then that person, that twin, let's say, can pass you up to HR, right? When they hear of things. Oh my goodness, it works absolutely every single level. Yep.
Okay. Other questions?
Any other chats? Good on chats. All right, let's just do.
So,
we have a whole bunch of hand raises. So let's just do one more. I'll pick Jean Ellenport. Do you want to raise your mic?
Hi, Shira. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. My name is Jean Ellenport, and I have spent most of my career in nonprofits and government relations.
Yeah.
I'm the government. My first level siblings are all nonprofit execs. My second level is a little more difficult because I've got communications and branding folks to fundraisers and developments to operational people, as well as to board and governance.
Right.
So it's kind of been, and actually that's been my hardest thing through my job search. My last job was an executive director of a membership organization.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm kind of.
It really depends on what and on how you're trying to focus your search. In other words, think more in terms of what is the ideal job title, and not just job title, scope of work. So for example, since today's apparently the executive director day, right? Right. As those of you who are in that spot know that being an executive director is pretty much a generalist, right? Kind of a role,
Right.
right? And so you've got, as you will know, right? You've got some that are very focused on government relations, some are focused on comms or on membership or whatever the pain point is or set of pain points that the organization is trying to solve. Meaning, to the extent that you understand the superpowers as an ED that you want to leverage first, okay, what you do and what you don't, so in other words, sift those out, you start to get much more refined so that it'll help you to network with the people who solve the same problem sets. Even if that's an eclectic mix of people, you get really, really focused. I help these kinds of organizations solve these kinds of problems in these kinds of ways. And then you start thinking about the twins who do the same thing, right? So I know, for example, in the association world, right, of course, we can get all jargony, right, about trade associations versus individual membership organizations and whatever, but we know that our trade association colleagues tend to have a really strong GR, government relations focus, oftentimes, right?
Right.
Not necessarily so for the professional societies. Maybe those folks are much more into, pubs and credentials and accreditation and whatever. The point is that the extent to which right, like what your kind of defined band of problems are, you start being like a homing pigeon, right? And you start looking for the LinkedIn profiles of people who talk about the same problem sets, who use the same keywords that you use, and then start to have those twin-ish or sibling-ish conversations, because those are the people who know the people. So for example, people in the agricultural associations are very different than the folks in medical societies.
Right.
Wildly different worlds, right? And you know that, but you got to get really narrow.
So question for you, because this has been a big hiccup. I think a stumbling block in my next hire is that I have not spent 10 or 15 years in one industry. So my vertical is not deep, it's very broad. And I'm finding that while I thought I did that purposely years ago, it's now becoming a negative.
Well, it can't, you're right, it can't be. I'm not going to deny that. Look, I'm a recruiter, I get it.
Right.
Okay. We oftentimes are looking for people who are specialists rather than generalists.
Right.
That said, I know of many generalists, many who land wonderful roles. Why? Because they're able to, again, go into the problem set. So may not be a sectoral kind of a brand. That's okay. You go from chemical association to ag association. Okay, fine.
Right.
It's not about that. It's really about your lane. It's about specifically. So if you are, the best GR, kind of advocate there ever once were, or you're the best at comms, or you're the best at membership recruitment or whatever, figure out and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I'm really like hip on this, okay? That if you figure out the urgent problems that you help associations solve, forget the industry for a minute, focus on what you do, focus on the profession side of things, right? That's what helps. I mean, right now, actually, I'm one of the finalist candidates for this executive director search that I'm running. So it's a medical society that I'm doing this for. And we have one candidate amongst the mix who does not come from a linear medical society background like the other three candidates. She happens to work for one now, but in the past she worked for a big honkin' trade association. I mean, like nothing to do with medical. And yet she is just amazing at recruitment, engagement, retention strategies. Like she's like membership girl. And that is a very important thing for these folks. And she does partnership development and all this. And she's been able to leverage her strengths in her candidacy to show us that she can solve this association's problems, regardless of the fact that she's not a traditional medical society executive. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very
I think we have time for just these two last hands that are raised. Why don't we start with Lori?
Hi, thank you. Hi, Shira. I have a question. When you're talking about the pain points discussion and how you can help them, I find an awkward that conversation very awkward to have because it kind of falls short. Like I had a good conversation with a hiring manager, and it was like, I could do everything that's on her pain plate. Right. I could help her with all of that. Yep. But she was like, well, I don't have any positions. The position I have is too junior. any ideas for how to handle
Well, see,
that?
look, when this is the whole idea of networking, right? Networking, just like, by the way, for those of you who are in the small business world, just like it's business development. So if you're networking for a job or you're doing business development, same.
Mhm,
You're planting seeds.
mhm,
You're planting seeds. This business development is not transactional. This is
mhm,
not a one-to-one kind of a thing. It's not like every time you pick up a call, there should be the exact opportunity waiting. No, this is you're planting relational seeds that hopefully will grow over time. You never know. You never know, Laura. 6 months later, right? The very person you talked to, she had the junior position. Now she's got the senior position later. You don't know the timing of it, but your job is to be a gardener. I'd even dare say a farmer. Okay, think of it as a large plot of land.
mhm,
Plant, seed, water, and then all of a sudden the sprouts will come out of nowhere. And you forgot about the relationship you had, right, 6 months ago, and then something comes. Because you know what? Look, we don't know, we don't have these stable jobs anymore. People don't stay in jobs for 30 years. You don't stay in jobs for 30 years. Employers don't keep you in a job for 30 years, okay? Get 18 months, get 2 years, get 3 years. The point is you never know what's going to happen next. I mean, Laura, I've known you for a long, long time, and I've seen your kind of the iteration, right, of the kind of opportunities that you've had, and you've had to rely on the strength of your network, right? And come
mhm.
back to them when you didn't think you would have to in 2 years. Well, all of a sudden you did. Okay, fine. That's what I'm talking about. Cultivate those relationships. Notice the word cultivate, right? Agriculture, cultivate them. And by the way, that also applies to after you get the job.
Mhm,
Don't stop
mhm,
networking.
mhm.
With one of the biggest failures I think of professionals these days, if people get super busy, they put their heads down and they wait to network until they have it, until they're in a job search. And really, you should be networking all the time, right? So fine, you've had a nice little relational conversation with this person. You've offered her some advice. You say, oh, let me connect you to my network. You're being a go-giver. She goes, well, you know, I only have this junior thing. That's okay, says Laura. That's okay. No worries. I'm just here to help. Just want to be of service, be friendly, whatever. You're not desperate. You're not anything. You're just being a colleague. Be a colleague. And then you never know. And then if you can ask the person at the end and say, you know what, who else do you know in your network that might benefit from talking with me? By the way, notice I didn't say, do you know anyone? That's a closed-ended question. Not do you know. Who do you know? Who
Okay.
do you know
Right.
that I could network with? That would be a benefit where I can have some benefit to them, where I can maybe offer some advice and maybe we can have some mutual synergy to it. And then you say, would you mind brokering an introduction? Right?
Right,
And then they do. And then all of a sudden, you know, two friends and so forth and so forth and so forth, because every single networking conversation should end with 1 or 2 or 3 more people from their network that you can talk to.
Okay, thank you
All
so
right.
much.
We have time for just this final question from Lori Winter. Sorry, Lori, to keep you in this long.
Laura, you're on mute.
Can you unmute yourself? Yeah.
Actually, I want to say that I've got my answer. So thank
Okay.
you, Kira.
Okay.
I'm listening to you coach everyone else. So thank you.
Fantastic. That was kind of the point.
Okay,
All right.
great.
All right.
Can I do one quick?
Can
Can I do one quick?
I just want to
Oh.
take this time to just really thank Shira for such a fantastic presentation. And I personally, I'm just walking away with 2 words, relational strategy. So
Yeah,
it's very important to think about. And
it's my pleasure. And Kelly, I'm not sure, were you about to mention HMM?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat for Shira's weekly call, the best in the city, the DMV, and also there's a group of all these job search things that she puts in her slide. I put that in there too. So Friday at 9:15 Eastern Standard Time, the best. She's a rock star.
Thank you,
That's
Kelly.
it.
I'll just mention it really fast. It's free, completely free. It's an open Q&A for job seekers. It's called Hire Moment Mastermind. We have a bunch of people on this call actually from it who actually heard about 40 Plus through it. So here we go. So it's mutual connecting here. So yeah, it's every Friday Eastern, 9:15 to 10:15. We open and close with speed networking, and in the middle, it's myself and several other career experts, coaches and recruiters. We even have someone who represents the federal government who helps people get jobs in the government. And we just do an open Q&A. So you put questions in the chat, and we are very happy. We have a very lively discussion, and we answer your questions as we can in the hour every single Friday. So you're welcome to join us. Oh, and one more quick thing. Milry mentioned in my introduction that I have an organization, also completely, it's a volunteer group. It's called Boomer Works. For those of you who are 50 plus, who are interested in or continuing to do self-employment, we're here for you. It's called boomerworks.org. And I'm just going to go ahead and very, very quickly pull it up for you so you can see it, because we just have a great service. Again, everything is completely free. Here you go. And so if you want to find out what we're doing in terms of our meetups, right, we offer twice monthly programs. You would go here to the upcoming events calendar. We have what's called a growth group coming up on Thursday, just a little peer networking group. And then we offer all kinds of educational content all throughout the year. And then if you would like to go to our training center, which is all kinds of free videos that are recordings of our trainings, we have all kinds of stuff for you to avail yourself of. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you in our BoomerWorks community.
Okay.
Hey, Shira, just really quickly, it's Fatima. Just a quick question about the hire moment that you mentioned. Is there a link to that, or
Yes,
how do
Kelly put it in the chat box.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yep.
I'll check it out.
Yep, in fact, I'll do this. I'll do this one more time just so that everybody has it. It's just meetup.com/hire-moment-mastermind. It's a meetup group.
Ah, okay, great.
All right.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Shira.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Have a good day,
Blessed
everybody.
Very much.
Okay.
Take care.
Very much.